So our next guest on Under the Radar, our third guest, CFL quarterback for the Calgary Stampeders, Marcus McMaryion, played football up at Oregon State before moving to Fresno State. Now he's playing in the CFL, his first season up there. And he's running a lot of quarterback camps too, working with a lot of different kids on and off the field, which is really awesome. Marcus, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really excited to have you, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm excited to see where this conversation will be fun.
Yeah, well, starting out, Marcus, I mean, you were a standout in high school. You set all these records at your high school in Fresno, California. You won the Division III Valley Conference title as a senior, and you had your standout final 2 seasons. Can you talk to us about the recruiting process that you went through during your senior year?
Yeah, man, dude. High school was the time of my life getting recruited. So nobody actually at my high school had gone Division I since 1970. It was a guy named Rob Adolph, and it was something kind of a big fish, small pond. No one was really used to someone getting recruited there. So kind of had a lot going on. But, I mean, I absolutely fell in love with it, just kind of the process of it. And didn't like getting recruited in high school, especially at a small school. I mean, you're just like sitting in class and like you just wave at the teacher like, hey, like Arizona's calling me. Like, can I go outside, like kind of waving at them. They're like, yeah, go ahead. So, I enjoyed it, man. I mean, just being from a small town, Danugo, I think there's like 25,000 people who live there. I mean, everyone knows everyone. They kind of shut the town down on Friday nights. And I think we only lost maybe like games in the 2 years we're on varsity, and kind of teachers knew like, hey, it's kind of a touchy week the next week if we lost a game. So it's kind of just give you the kind of feel for the town. So, I mean, it was awesome, bro. Small town vibes. They just love their football and their sports out there.
That's awesome. Could you talk about like some of your visits and, visiting Oregon State and ultimately choosing there before, heading back home to Fresno?
Yeah, dude. Oregon State, I mean, absolutely fell in love with the kids. I mean, the coaching staff. I mean, really for me, it was kind of the small town vibe. I mean, Corvallis, I want to say it's around 45,000 people, but like 37 of it's college students. So like super like college town, like awesome feel. Like same thing. I mean, when the game's on, there's no professional teams in Oregon or football team in Oregon. So Oregon Ducks, obviously, and then Oregon State. I mean, it's families divided up. It's like either you're one or the other. There's no in between. So I just fell in love with kind of the culture and the attitude of everything out there. Just kind of really blue collar kind of town and just football team out there.
That's awesome. And can you touch on some of the reasons why you decided to leave Oregon and ultimately go home? Obviously, going home is a big part of it, but you decided to head back to Fresno State for your final 2 seasons and play out your college career there.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a culmination of a lot of different things, but kind of first and foremost, the original staff that had recruited me my freshman year actually ended up leaving right after my redshirt year. So I redshirted. That staff was like, all right. So kind of making a decision whether I want to stay after that, and I ended up staying. I just felt like I'd really been called there for a reason. I wanted to kind of perform and do well at Oregon State. I mean, I felt like I made a commitment to this, not only the staff, but the town, the state, and just everything in its entirety. So I wanted to stay there and make sure to do everything I can. And just one thing led to another, and obviously it turned out well going back to Fresno State. And the awesome thing about it, I mean, just Oregon State, I mean, their fan base, I mean, till this day, I mean, they still support me. When I was at Fresno State, they'd be tweeting at me and like showing me love and support. So awesome. I had absolutely nothing but respect for all of Oregon State and Beaver Nation out there. I mean, obviously I wish it would have turned out a little bit different, but it's all love at the end of the day.
And then after Fresno State, you attended rookie mini camps with the NFL's Oakland Raiders, the Saints in 2019. Can you talk about those experiences a bit and being in a pro NFL locker room where everyone's fighting for a spot and what that experience was like?
Yeah, cool. But yeah, I mean, as far as the Saints, dude, and kind of gaining experience that, it's kind of hard to put words on it, honestly, just because, I mean, playing at that level, you kind of dream about it as a kid growing up, and then you're in the locker room, and then especially – so I have a really good relationship with Derek, Derek Carr. So I actually got to go to Oakland a couple of days early and kind of had an unfair advantage, so to speak, with the playbook and stuff like that. So that was a good time because I was actually in the quarterback room in Oakland. They'd ask the quarterbacks a question and be like, everyone could answer except for Marcus. I'm like, dude, what? Like, that's not fair. Like, because I knew like checks I wasn't supposed to know. Like, I knew tons of stuff. Like, I would answer, and he's like, how do you know that? Like, that wasn't in the rookie playbook that we gave you. And I was like, oh, sorry, never mind. Like, forget it, I didn't say that. So that was a good experience, man. And then obviously being in New Orleans, I mean, Drew Brees being one of the probably greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game, all that kind of stuff that he's done in his career, and just kind of really be able to pick his brain. And like my locker for the week that I was there, I mean, it was right next. Like he's walking in the quarterback room and say what's up, and you're like, oh yeah, what's up, Drew? Like, just trying to be cool. And then like when he leaves, you're just like, dude, like that was Drew Brees. Like what the heck? Like he's mind blown, just like kind of like, dang, like that really just happened. So it was cool though. I think the biggest thing that I really took away from it is like, I mean, these guys are in the NFL and obviously the best at what they do at the highest level, but I mean, they're all just normal guys too at the end of the day. I mean, they joke around, they play Fortnite and Call of Duty, and like they just normal dudes, they just happen to be really, really good at what they do on the football field.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you mentioned Derek Carr, and that was something I was going to ask you. Obviously, Marcus, I started following you because of your relationship with my brother, and his page and everything. But he told me about your relationship with Derek a little bit. So I was going to ask you, he's obviously a phenomenal person, most generous guy out there, wears his faith on his sleeve. Did your connection start with him through Fresno State? Did it, start? I understand that you're pretty religious as well. How'd that connection form and continue to grow? Because, you guys are pretty close as far as I understand, of course.
Yeah, no, totally. And that's actually kind of a cool story in itself. So I'm kind of glad you brought that up. But kind of how it worked out, I want to say it was summertime year. Derek showed up to Fresno State. He was just in town to do some like, I don't know, sponsorship stuff or shoot. I don't know what he was doing, but he happened to be in the weight room just working out, training. He like broke down and stuff like, hey, Derek, come break us down, stuff like that. And I had caught him when I was walking out. We were just kind of talking, going back and forth. And he goes, hey, get my number from Harp, which is one of our graduate assistants receiver with Derek. So I ended up getting his number, and I always tell people it's kind of funny. I was like joking around, like I was like, dang, it felt like kind of like a high school crush in a way, like do I like text him, like do I text him right now, like do I wait a day, do I wait 2 days, like I don't want to seem like groupie, so I'm kind of waiting, and I end up texting him, I don't remember, like a day later or something like that, like, hey, like it's Marcus, bro, like I just wanted you to number, thanks for you giving me yours. And then he flies back and he's like, I'm surprised you text me. And I'm thinking like, what? Like you're Derek Carr, bro. Like you've been to the Pro Bowl. Like you're one of the best quarterbacks in Fresno State history. Like I'm thinking like, that's a dumb question, Derek. Like what are you talking about? And then he's like, he tells me he's given his number to every quarterback at Fresno State since he left. And I was the first one to text him. And I was like, what the heck? Like I was just mind blown, dude. And he literally like extended a hand and was like, dude, anything like, with football, with your faith, I mean, with your relationships, like anything, like, bro, reach out. And I mean, I clearly kind of jumped on it when he told me that, and kind of with certain boundaries, of course. But I mean, it kind of grew into our relationship to where now I was training for pro day at Carly at his gym, doing all the same workouts he does, and kind of led into some quarterback training that I'm doing now as far as through Carly and now in Bakersfield, and got established relationship with his brother David. So it's grown. The Carr family is definitely a big part of my life now.
That's awesome. And Marcus, leading into that, kind of what were some of the reasons that led you to where you are now with the CFL and Calgary, especially, and your experience with the CFL first season being canceled?
Yeah, it was tough, man, because especially this past year was supposed to be my first year out there going to Calgary, and we kind of were doing Zoom kind of installments every week, kind of putting the offense in. Like, okay, like I think the toughest part was they weren't really sure what was going on exactly. So it was like, hey, you might be on a flight next week to Canada. So it's like you're kind of on edge like every week, like, dude, I might leave like next week, or I might get a text like, hey, your flight leaves on Friday, like be ready. So I think that was the toughest part. And it was almost sort of a relief when they told us like, hey, it's not going to happen this year. Like you guys could like relax, and like, okay, it's going to happen next year. Like, okay, I could kind of get off kind of being on the edge of my seat, like just intensely like, hey, I'm going to leave. So, but it went good, man. I mean, obviously Calgary has probably one of the best quarterbacks in CFL history, and Bo Levi Mitchell out there, man. And just being able to kind of pick his brain from my first year, I mean, I couldn't ask for a better situation to kind of walk into. And obviously the throne now, and he's going to be the guy going into the season. And I have no problem with that. Absolutely. I'll be able to sit behind him for a year and just kind of watch how he does his daily operations just on a day-to-day basis, what he does. Because, I mean, obviously when you've played in the professional level that long and at the level he's playing at, I mean, you're doing something right. So I'm thankful to be able to walk into such a great organization.
And are those kind of your expectations going into your first season in the CFL, to learn and experience growth? And is it a strange feeling going into it after a long layoff and a canceled season?
Yeah, definitely. I was actually just talking with my wife actually the other day and saying how really the last game I played was in the East-West Shrine game after my senior year. So it's been about 2 years now, about 2.5 since I played a live football game. So it's kind of crazy to think about that. But at the same time, we were talking about, it's like, yeah, all those other guys in the CFL also had an entire year off. So it's not like you're the only one that didn't play a live football game this past year. So I'm excited, man. It's going to be fun.
And have you had to meet up with teammates and coaches over Zoom leading up to it? Has that been a weird experience? If so?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, especially I vividly remember my flight was supposed to leave this past year. May 10th was my flight. They booked it for me. Everything was scheduled. I was supposed to take off, and then they delayed it a week, and then they delayed it another week, and they finally just like, hey, we're going to cancel your flight, and we'll just rebook it like whenever it happens. So I think for me, the biggest thing that's kind of helped me transition and not be too worried about it is one of the receivers who played he's in Cal. He played tight end at Fresno State. So I've thrown with him previously, and we kind of have a history together. That's Aaron Peck. And he's kind of obviously knowing somebody in the locker room and kind of not walking in completely as a new guy on the block kind of thing. He's going to make everything a lot easier when I get there.
Absolutely. Looking forward to keeping up with that. And forgive me for having to check my notes here real quick, but I know you're really into education and, sharpening your mind and everything like that. You have a bachelor's degree in public health from Oregon State, and you have two masters, one in sports admin and one in kinesiology from Fresno State. I mean, you're obviously very into your academics and take it very seriously. And I know that's something that you try to instill in some of the kids that you're working with your quarterback camps. Could you talk about that a little bit, your quarterback camp, and how important it is to help those younger athletes, not only on the field with their performance, but also off the field, and helping them to understand the importance and the values of things like education?
Yeah, dude, 100%. That's something always kind of pegged from my parents. I think it really stemmed from my parents kind of growing up and said, hey, whether you're blessed to play 15 years in the NFL or CFL or 1 year, it's going to end at some point. And I've been lucky enough that I was able to kind of seep that in my brain a little sooner than most people do. So trying to have something to fall back on the education. But I think for me is when I'm training quarterbacks, I tell them it's like, not to kind of stroke my own ego here, but like football is easy. Like I'm football than a high school kid or a 15-year-old. Like just it is what it is. Like I've played football longer than you. Like you're gonna learn stuff in football. Like that's simple. Like that's the easy part. Why you pay me to train you? Like you're gonna learn stuff in football. But I'm more always kind of concerned with kind of the back end of stuff. It's like, hey, I never saw myself. I was a good quarterback. I did a lot of things well. I kind of moved well, throw the ball well, yada yada. But I was never just the guy that could just throw it 80 yards or whatever, something like that, or just do a lot of the stuff like that. But I always knew I kind of had an advantage, and I knew as far as my intangibles and stuff, being able to lead guys and kind of motivate guys and get them and just kind of raise everyone's level. I mean, kind of in a way, just relating it right now is just kind of how Tom Brady did in Tampa. I mean, that's kind of the best way I could kind of think about it. Obviously, I don't want to put myself quite on Tom Brady. A little smidge of it, maybe.
One day.
Yeah, but just I think be able to really just affect the culture of a team. I think there's so much that goes like I never wanted to be the hoorah guy. I know there's I've played on teams before where guys thought or coaches thought a guy was a leader on the team, but as soon as the coaches left, that guy wouldn't say anything, and guys kind of shunned him on the team. So I knew, especially when I got to Fresno State, that it was super important for me to earn the respect of my teammates, and then the coach would come after that, and I think that's really kind of the notion and kind of approach I had to Fresno State and why everything kind of folded the way it did, and really just be able to teach that to the quarterbacks that I trained.
And that kind of goes hand in hand with your slogan or your motto, if you will, why not you? That rings through in your coaching, the quarterback camps as well, heavily. What inspired that saying?
Yeah, dude, that's been a huge saying in my life, and I think I really didn't realize how big it was in my life until I kind of had the layoff period of not playing football. Like, okay, I had a lot of time to sit back and think, like, how did I get where I am? And that comes from a story. I went to a Nike camp when I was in 8th grade or freshman year, one of those years. I ended up going to a Nike camp, and I always tell the story. I have no idea what the dude looked like, the guy, the coach. he might have been tall, he might have been short. I don't know. I don't remember the coach at all. Literally, he talked for like 2 minutes, and he completely changed the trajectory of my life when he said that. But basically, what he said is he came up, and there's like 500 kids. We're all sitting there, whatever, bunch of kids just from all over California that show up, and he goes, "Who wants to play in college?" And of course, everyone's all excited, raised their hands. "I want to play in college. I want to play in college." Everyone's excited about it, and he kind of just goes. I always mess up the statistics, but it's somewhere around 7% of athletes actually play at the college level. So whether that's D1 or JUCO, whatever the case, and then only like 1 point something percent actually get a Division I scholarship. And he kind of burst down to us and said, so out of everyone that raised their hand, he said maybe 5 of you guys might get a Division I scholarship. And then I could kind of just see everyone's kind of heart drop, like everyone kind of like sad faces, like everyone got hurt. And I remember just kind of like sticking my chest up a little bit, I'm just skinny, like 135 pounds soaking wet, like I'm not no big time recruit and anything like that. So I'm just thinking in my head, like why not me? Like I don't see why I can't be that one person to give it a Division I scholarship. And that was kind of just a turning point for me when I had time to, when I wasn't playing this past year, to really think back, like, hey, where did kind of the motivation and the drive kind of stem from? And I was like, that coach has no idea. Like he impacted the trajectory of my life, and I can't even tell you what he looks like. I think that's the funniest part of it. Like, it's like you could affect somebody by talking to them for like 30 seconds, 2 minutes, and you have no idea what you did to their life. So kind of take that approach.
Absolutely. I love that, man. I love that. And Marcus, last question here is, kind of about your relationship with my brother and book thinkers, but, knowing that you're following that and knowing that you guys are doing weekly calls and everything, you're obviously very passionate about self-development, personal finance, all those things, just improving every area of your life. So can you talk about your love of self-growth and expanding your mind, your body, and all those sorts of things and how you got into that?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Actually, it's funny. I'm reading How to Win Friends and Influence People right now.
There you go.
But for me, where that kind of stemmed from and kicked off was, I guess kind of being full disclosure up front. Before I started my master's program at Fresno State, you couldn't pay me to read a book, dude. I don't
Yep.
like, you couldn't pay me to read a book. I'm like, no, thanks, dude. Like a book, like, no, I'm okay. But really it stemmed from, I took my first class in my master's program at Fresno State. It's called Super Achievers. And Dr. McMillan, I tell him to this day, like he changed my life too. But all we did in that class was study like the elite of the elite, like the most successful people, to kind of the Bill Gates, the Warren Buffetts, the Steve Jobs, the Oprah Winfrey's, and all those, the Kobe Bryant's, Michael Jordans, all these people that are the best in their respective field. And almost all of them kind of equated at least some point in their life that they were reading books and kind of getting an edge. And I kind of experienced that when I was with the Saints as well too, and with the Raiders. It's like talking to the guys that are at the highest level. Once you get to that level, and even in college Division I, everybody's good. Everyone's the best from their town. Everyone's the best at what they do. Like you can't really hang your hat on that anymore because everyone's like, I'm the best where I'm from too. So just really trying to find that edge and kind of that 1% or 0.001% difference that could kind of separate me from guys, and kind of just slowly started falling in love with it even more, as far as kind of the personal side of it. And then you got the spiritual side, and then it's one of those things, like once you start rolling into it, I joke with brother all the time and tell him, it's like, man, the more I learn, it's like the more I realize I don't know. It's like, It's not good. It's like I think like, oh man, I'm learning something about this, dive into it. It's like, dude, I don't know anything at all. Like I gotta keep going. So just kind of falling in love with kind of just always being curious and always learning more. I think that's something that got me to where I'm being too prideful to ask for help, and I've always been so quick to jump on that. It's like, man, if someone knows the answer to it, like I'm gonna go to that person and get the answer, versus zigzagging my way to try to get there. Might as well just skip all those steps and ask for advice and help.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Obviously you're growing a lot, and that's not stopping anytime soon. You're only 24, right? And
Yep.
you're doing some pretty incredible things, man, with the coaching, the playing. You have 3 degrees. You're doing some really incredible stuff. And COVID's been pretty good to you too. You got married, you have a kid on the way, you're a quarterback, man. You're the total package. You really are. You're helping kids achieve their potential, all the above. Really appreciate you coming on, Marcus. We don't want to spend too much of your time here, because there's another football game to go watch. But if there's anything you want to say on the way out, if you want to talk about your website, about your coaching, tell people to check out your socials and get your daily, quotes on Twitter out there, whatever it is, floor is yours, man.
Yeah, and if people want to follow along, I know on Twitter, my handle's is mm2_era. On Instagram, it's the real mm2, and then I have a website. And actually, your brother just challenged me to get my YouTube going again, so I got about 800 subscribers on there, and I did that on accident. So probably should try to do something with that. So I'm just those going and try to be more active on the socials. But yeah, man, like I said, I appreciate you guys having me on, bro, and hopefully we can talk again sometime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, maybe before the season starts, we can have you on again, getting ready for your season. Because first game's in May, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, end of May. Yep. So our training camps. The nice thing about the CFL compared to the NFL is that camp's only about 2 weeks, so that's good.
That isn't bad. That isn't bad. All right, Marcus, man. Thank you again for coming on. We really appreciate it, man. Been a lot of fun talking to you.
Yep, appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, Marcus. Everyone go throw him a follow and subscribe on YouTube now that he's got it going.
Yeah, there you go.